What's up, guys? We got another recording here sent to us by Vindian, and he's spawning here in the northeast of the map as Hausa, of course, and here we have his opponent in the southwest, playing as the port's Noob. Now, this is a really tough matchup for Hausa, probably one of the hardest, because it's really hard to stop the ports from getting that FF, and once they do, they can get the helps and the organ guns, and that's just really difficult for Hausa to counter because the halberdiers will definitely just melt your raiders, and yeah, there's just no easy way of getting close to those organ guns. And normally you would counter organ guns actually with just regular falconets, but Hausa of course struggles to get those falconets out. Now this map is really nice for Hausa though, because there's a lot of cattle on this map, and we can see Vindian, knowing that, actually just trying to go straight for his opponent's base. He's missing one of the cattle here, which is unfortunate, but yeah, he's just gonna try to get as many water buffaloes as possible, also trying to steal the treasure here, which was actually successful. So that's just huge, getting that 75 food. So if I've gotten this start, I would actually think about getting the Songhai H up, doing the 14 mil H up, and just trying to pressure with raiders as early as possible. But we'll see what Vindian goes for. Now, Vindian is kind of known for trying to utilize those influence shipments. He really likes getting those out, and I think we're gonna see some Kanuri Guards actually in this match. So it's gonna be quite interesting to see how he deals with the ports. So meanwhile, just getting those cattle, getting the village dogs in, building that house, just regular stuff here, and you can actually, that's a really nice food treasure here, actually 55 food, and this is also really nice as well, the XP treasure. I always try to go for XP treasures as Hausa, because that means you can get your shipments in quicker, and he doesn't actually have a Hausa kingdom. So looking at this deck is actually quite aggressive, I would say, because he doesn't have the Hausa Kingdom. He does have the Timbuktu and the Palace of Amina, but otherwise just a fully loaded H2 play here with max amount of cards you can have there. And actually even in H4 he has the 10 Kanuri Guards. So if you don't know, Kanuri Guards are basically like a goon type unit that is just really strong, but also really expensive. As you can see, a 3-pop cavalry unit. So he's training that 14th villager, and I bet we're gonna see him actually stop once he's gotten that villager out. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. We also have a lot of really nice shipments here in H2. We have the 9 Kanuri Guards here as well for 1,000 influence. So as you can see, this shipment's actually like honestly feels like it's a lot better value than this shipment. You only get 1 extra Kanuri Guard here for the same cost. So I don't know, this is actually quite a nice card. And it also has the Center Horseman, he has the Berber ally, so if he wants to get these cards out, he really needs to get his influence going. Because the difficulty when you have this many influence cards is that sometimes you'll get up to H3, you'll send for instance, you'll send the 5 graffiti, and then maybe you don't have any influence, you can't actually send this and you're being pressured. So that's really the danger. But he's going up against ports, and we'll see how aggressive the port player is. Some port players prefer to just go to H4 or just try to stay back and boom, which I do think is the wrong decision if you're playing as ports. Now, if you're playing as ports, I would definitely suggest always go for the FF push, because it's just so much better versus Hausa, but we'll see what he does. It's actually also grabbing this trading post right here. It's the Jesuits. So the Jesuits, if I'm not completely wrong, gives you the Conquistadors, I think, which is like a goon type unit with an area of effect attack, I think. So we'll see how that works out. Maybe he'll train some of those, and he's actually aging up with Hausa. So yeah, quite a greedy option getting that wood. Now Vindian do like to age up with Hausa, it seems, which is quite interesting, and it's not a bad shout, because the wood is actually worth a lot more than the gold, of course, with the Songhai H-up, and you also get that really nice ability to spawn these towns and trawos. But I do think it's quite greedy to go Hausa against ports, and it can really come and bite you in the ass, because it really slows down your H2 pressure, because you can't use that big button. But we'll see how it affects the gameplay. He's gathering up a lot of food now. He's having a few people on wood here, so maybe we'll see him build some Falanis. He's also sending the raiders, getting the placer mines, and he's already scouted this TP, so I bet we're gonna see him try to siege that down. And we see here a quite defensive town center from ports here. I do think this is a good option. Going for the safe TC just makes it really easy for you to H up, and yeah, ports is just already gathering up those resources. So as you can see, at this point he basically already has everything he needs to H up. The coin is already here, so that's what I mean, that it's really hard to stop the port FF. Like it's impossible, to be honest. So anyway you slice this, he's gonna get up, and he has the H up in now. And I think maybe he actually would have wanted to place like this TC here. It doesn't really protect anything, going more to the right here. But at the same time, it's probably doesn't gonna matter, because yeah, Vindian is just using his time to take down this trading post, and by the time he'll be in the base, there will already be like a third town center here. So yeah, also Vindian scouting this buffalo though, so you really want to look at the map for these white dots and really grab them, because for Hausa these are just huge. He's getting the snares upgrade, so he's investing a lot in market techs. He's also getting some Fulani archers, so he's gonna have good eco if the game progresses, but the question is, can it keep up with the triple TC? He's also getting Palace of Amina now, quite nice defensive card. He didn't do that as the first card. He of course started with the Raiders, so he has been missing out a bit on the influence. And yeah, port player just putting down another safe TC here. Now if you're up against ports, you definitely want to try to have some Raiders here around the 620 mark or something like that, because that means that you can in a lot of cases actually snipe that builder wagon. But he did miss out on that. His raiders were just up here trying to get that TP. There's also a water buffalo right here actually, so yeah, it would be really nice actually to pick that up. So that's 2 water buffaloes that he has scouted, and it looks like he actually got that buffalo, so we only need to move it back to his base, and we'll see if we make some conquistadors. We also have the land villager build time minus 15%, so that's quite a good tech actually, especially for the port player with 3 TCs. Not so much for Hausa though. And we also have the gunpowder trooper action damage and gunpowder cavalry. So this is actually a really good upgrade, and it could actually synergize really well with Kanuri Guards, as it of course affects them as well. But he's not really using the raiders too much at this point. He's trying to go in for a sneaky raid here in the back, but yeah, he gets scouted immediately, and he does get this stable building, which is really nice, and he can probably deny this stable as well. So yeah, just a really nice pickup. The question is always in this position, do you go for the villagers or do you go for the building? But he went for the building. I think that's probably the right decision. Now, he probably doesn't want to commit to actually taking that down. He did force a response here with Minutemen, which makes it really worth it. That's 300 research down, but he doesn't want to stay with the with his javelins here, because they're gonna get melted by these TCs. And the port player is actually taking some liberties here, getting the resources here. And I think, like, imagine if this third town center was like over here. That would have been so much better, protecting this gold mine, protecting this hunt. But instead he's gonna lose those villagers. That's a bit unfortunate. He's sending in the goons now, unsurprisingly. I don't know about this though, sending the goons and building a stable that really locks you into building cavalry units. It would have probably been better to do the other way around, like either training goons, sending skirms, or building a barracks and sending goons. But he did go for goons, and we'll see how it works out. Meanwhile, we can see Vindian here. He is still far from aging, and this is really the tough thing with Hausa. Like, finding your window at this point to H3 can be really tough. Like, if your opponent is really aggressive, you could be already pushing now with organs and the halberdiers. And if that were the case, then Vindian really wouldn't have anything to deal with those units. So fortunately for him, the port player is staying back. He's just going full goon, which is really good for Vindian, because goon will get really easily countered by the Fulani. He's also dropping down a church. He gets some XP and a barracks. So he's giving Vindian plenty of time here. I don't know about this TP though. It's generating 0.35, but at the same time, I don't know. Vindian took this really early, but it's really not utilizing it. But he does have a lot of TPs across the map actually. He actually has all of them. So maybe it's wanna go for air Berbers once he gets to H3, but at the same time it's just a 5 villager shipment with 30% better gather rate, so yeah, it's still not an amazing shipment, it's just a good shipment. So he's actually going for the Gananchi, trying to get some Akans out to deal with these Dragoons. Now, Akans don't technically counter Dragoons, but because of the fact that they're musket type units, they do trade at least cost efficiently. So it's gonna be one way to deal with this port player. Meanwhile, the port player is just trying to do some raiding, but yeah, this will probably not work because, well, the goons are just really weak. As you can see, it still takes 2 shots for them to even get a single bill out, and in the meantime, he's gonna lose a few of these, it seems, but maybe not actually. But Vindian do get some nice damage in with these archers, because the archers, of course, have a 2 times multiplier against light cavalry. So yeah, they're just gonna be able to deal with this really nicely. But at the same time, we see Vindian is starting to lose a bit of that map control. He is a bit forced up here in his base. He has villagers out here on the corner, and he's getting a bit scared, I think, of those organ guns maybe coming out. So yeah, he's just trying to stay back, and there we see the he gets scouted here, and actually that's the age up, so I kind of missed when he did the age up, but he's going for the mosque age up with the experience, so he's gonna have a lot of experience. He might actually pretty soon even get out the second card, so he's gonna start with the Yokonawa card. Really good option, just investing in your economy. If you're not being pressured, it's always a good shout. It kind of gives you a bit of military as well with those 5 griots, and if you're not being pressured, you could always just use the griots to boost your town center building rate or boost your war camp building rate. So overall, just a great economic and military shipment. And then he also has these this next shipment in, and he's actually already at almost 1,000 influence, so he has a lot of options. He could go for the Emir of Kano, the Hadejah Emirate, which would probably be a good shot considering he actually has some raiders as well. Or he could go for the Center Horseman, or of course the Kanuri Guards. So he chose to go for the Kanuri Guards, which I guess he's going for those to try to snipe these organ guns, if there's any organ guns coming, and that was the correct option, because now we see, of course, the 3 organs coming in, and we also see some hussars. So he actually got really lucky here, because those Kanuri Guards are actually gonna counter both of these units really well. But we can see the port player here really missing that batch. He could have had probably actually a full batch of 10 hussars now if he wanted to, but instead he missed that, and he's trying to do some raiding, but at the same time the Hausa army is just in the base here trying to protect, so he can't really do a lot of damage as of right now. And he's also getting the upgrade for the villager HP, though I must say that the hounds are quite far away now, so he is in a tough spot in that sense. And he's actually only on 28 villagers. If you take a look at port player, yeah, he's on 42 villagers. So this is why this matchup is also so difficult. You really need to do a lot of damage, because this whole time the port player is just triple TC booming, and yeah, it's just really tough. And actually the port player is even saving up for that H4. He really wants to get H4. He's not building any villagers at this point. He's just no, I want to get to H4. So he got the resource in now. He's going up now. He's trying to do some raiding. He's actually done a really nice job of raiding. But here we can see the Kanuri Guards. We can see 30 ranged attack, 300 HP. So these guys are just way better than the goons at this point. But at the same time, they are really expensive. So it's probably still not cost efficient to go ahead and trade those toe to toe. But now we got the reinforcing units coming in here, and he's looking like he is in a good spot. But at the same time, 29 villagers, it's quite few villagers against these 42. And if the port player is really missing the villagers here, like he could be training villagers from both of these TC. I have no clue why he isn't doing that, because he has the wood stockpile. There we go, there we have the villagers in queue. So as you can see, the port player is down in score, but I think he's in a really good spot still, because he's just eco-wise, he's just way ahead, and he has those triple TCs just mashing out villagers. He just needs to get into to H4 successfully, and then he just needs to send some of these really nice shipments, like the 2 heavy cannons. But I think he has to be a bit careful of pushing right now, because he is aging, which means that the Hausa army is going to be a lot stronger than his army at this point. And we can see the Greeks actually healing up the units here as well, so the Kanuri Guards really survive a lot. So he still has actually 9 Kanuri Guards, so every single Kanuri Guard is still alive actually. So that just shows you the strength of the Griot. You can see all of his units has healing up, and he's even healing up the villagers here. So that's such a nice move here, because it really nullifies those attempts on raiding. And similarly, we can see Hausa here also stockpiling a lot of resources. Actually has way too much gold, and he has a really high gold sell value. He actually went ahead and sent the gold. So at this point he can go up, and he's going to go up with the Berbers, getting some Berber camels, which is going to be quite nice. At the same time, he hasn't really scouted any Hussars though. So going for the Berbers is just interesting. But I think his idea is probably, he knows that his opponent is going for the Dragoons, which means that he probably just he knows that they will trade equally with the Dragoons, and they will actually counter the cannons. So I think he's just expecting this cannon Dragoon composition, which he would be correct in. So we see the 2 heavy cannons, and I think this is the window to push for Noob here before Vindian actually gets up and manages to get H4 units. Meanwhile, Vindian is just keep on massing here. He's building some Fulanis to try to deal with those goons. He doesn't have a huge mass at this point, so I think Ports really have like a really good window at this point. We see Ports pushing in here, and we can also see here another TC going up here. A bit of a cheeky TC protecting this herd. Meanwhile, we see Hausa has also a town center there, so quite nice for Ports here, getting another herd down, and he's gonna make short work of this palace with these heavy cannons. They just have massive damage, and this is the problem, because now Hausa really can't build any culverins, because he needs the palace to build culverins, and he doesn't have another palace down. So he really needs to figure out a way to deal with those, and he just aged up now. He looks like he actually went ahead and sent this Hajj Emirate as well, to get some more hand cavalry and get the cheaper upgrades. And you can see the Port player really doing a mistake there of committing against the archers. That's really not what I want to do, and his heavy cannons is really out of position here, getting caught off by the Kanuri Guards. And the Kanuri Guards have a 3 times multiplier against cannon. They're basically like a culverin. So as you can see, he's just fumbling with his artillery here, and I think the micro made a huge difference. Like, I think Noob was in a really good spot, but he just completely messed up his micro, and he really needs to fall back now with his units. And just like that, it's just switching really in favor of Vindian, and Vindian knows it. He doesn't really need to push immediately, but he knows that he's in a good position. He just want to get his upgrade in, and because he's relying a lot of these mercenary type units and the natives like the Kanuri Guards and the Berber camels and the Akan, they all shadow tech, so all of his units were immediately H4, and he was ready to take on that fight immediately after aging. But we do see that Hausa is running low on food here. He's got a lot of people here on wood, 17 people on wood, and he's stockpiling a lot of wood. He really needs to get out and try to get this herd, which is really also needs to get this herd in. And he's also building a university and a palace here, which is nice. It's gonna help him get that influence generation, and he's also sending the 10 Kanuri Guards. So we get an insane amount of Kanuri Guards, and ooh, that's gonna be tough for Ports to deal with. Ports really needs to get some skirmishers out, and he's trying to train skirmishers, but yeah, he's just really low on resources. He has a lot of people here on wood, and yeah, he's just going to build mills now, and that's really not what you want. Preferably you wouldn't want to expand on the water before that, but yeah, and he's also ran out of this hunt, so he really doesn't have a lot of options. And these units are really food heavy, 90 food, 90 coin, so he's gonna need that food to keep on massing, and it's just a really tough spot for him right now. And he got the fort wagon, it's gonna help him protect, but at the same time, it's not gonna matter too much if Vindian just gets a great mass here and can just go around and harass. And as you can see, he's trying to go for this herd, but it's already taken by Vindian, and he already has a TC. He's getting a palace here, a university. So this is something a lot of Hausa players really miss out on. Make sure you build these palaces and universities in the later stage of the game. Now Vindian is really good at this. As you can see, he's got the Holy Trinity here. He has it here in his home base, and also now in this base. He's gonna get just a ton of influence from that. As soon as this palace goes up, I believe this is gonna go to 225 or something like that. And also catching this fort. This fort was actually a bit risky from Port player, and Port's not even trying to protect it. His cavalry units are over here actually, so you always want to protect that foundation. It's just really weak once it's building, and yeah, it's just looking really grim. He's going for petards. I don't know what he wants to do with petards. There's not like any particular building here with which I can't afford to lose, so I don't think petards are the right move. He needs to add something that he can synergize with the dragoons. He needs to add skirmishers or cannons. I think cannons could be a good option, but at the same time, we see Hausa still has a lot of these Kanuri Guards, 19 Kanuri Guards, and they're already they're already actually age 4 upgraded, so these have 36 range attack, which is pretty huge. And also remember that 3 times multiplier against cannons. So now we can see Port players pushing in, but yeah, he's like, there's Fulani here, there's Kanuri Guards here, Berbers. Like at this point, the dragoons are just not countering any unit in this composition. The only thing they're countering is this single Lefidi. So I think the Port player really needs to recognize this and make some other types of units. But at the same time, we see some Magarais coming out. So Vindian actually going for the Emir of Kano. Now, why this card is quite decent still, it's an H3 card, but it's still quite decent because it gives you the Magarai, which of course Shadow Tech. So these guys are already champion level, as you can see. Insane attack, 54 attack in range. So they're just gonna be really strong. And it's actually going ahead and upgrading the trade route as well, and at this point he's just feeling really comfortable. He's really secured the map with these town centers and forts, so he's really not vulnerable to raiding in that sense. He's actually building even another fort and another university. As you can see, his influence gather rate is just insane at this point, and you can also see he has a lot of cattle here, and he really wants to get that tech, which also boosts the gather rate of influence from the cattle. Let's try to max out the cattle, and he will have influence, more influence than he can spend. So we'll see if he actually switches up these to influence. Yeah, he does. So we got insane influence gather rate, and if you haven't seen my video on the different on the breakdown on how to gather influences Hausa, I would definitely check it out, because it really shows you how strong these TP lines are for gathering influence. It's actually insane. And as you can see, like every time you get a pass, it's 82 influence, so that's just really strong. And he almost got a ship, and then it's going for the Arma garrison, so he's gonna get that tower builder, and it's actually gonna be able to build some skirmishers. And I think skirmishers could actually be a good shout in this match, because he's up against a lot of these dragoons, and also they will also trade quite well with the cazadores. Now the only thing is that those skirmishers of course aren't as good as the cazadores, because they require like an insane amount of pop. They're like 3 pop, I think, or something like that. It's crazy. And the Port player really getting caught off guard here. He's really far forward with skirmishers, which means he doesn't get his cavalry in here in time. And yeah, it's just looking really good for Vindian now, because well, all of these cavalry units are basically goons, so the dragoons don't really counter anything. They're just trading blows here, and the mass is just looking way bigger for Hausa. The one thing he got going for him though is he has that range upgrade, and if he goes for the range upgrade, he actually will outrange most of these units, and he can actually start kiting, but he hasn't gone for that upgrade, and he's actually just now getting the Legion Dragoon upgrade, so that's a bit unfortunate, missing out on the upgrade for Dragoons this whole time. So so you can see 240 HP, 28 attack. Meanwhile, we can see these guys 200 HP, 12 attack with double the attack fire rate. So they're still a lot stronger than the elite javelin riders, but compared to the Berbers, yeah, they just aren't as strong, and especially compared to the Kanuri Guards with that almost 500 hit points. And now we can see Vindian actually, he's playing it safe, he's going for the mortars. He knows that if he gets the mortars, he can just stand on his mortars and just force the fight. So I think this is gonna be the win condition. And he's also getting the upgrade, of course, for the javelin riders here, so they will be more comparable to the dragoons. So it's gonna be interesting to actually compare the stats. We have 240, 15 attack, and we have 320 and 37 attack. So the dragoons are quite a bit stronger with that 37 attack, and also that's a really nice hit points. But at the same time, you have to multiply this by 2 because these fire twice as fast. And also the fact that these guys are a lot cheaper. So I think the value proposition of javelins are actually quite good. But what really makes the Port Dragoons so good is the fact that they have this huge range. And I actually got the range upgrade, so you can see 18 range of these guys. And yeah, we can just take a look at that circle of range, and it's just huge. And compare that to, of course, the Javelin, which just doesn't have nearly enough range. It's just 12 range. So there's a huge difference in range, and this means that if you're training Dragoon Wars versus Ports, you will always lose. It doesn't really matter the stats of your units, you'll just lose because you have less range, and he can just fire with all of his goons every time. But because Hausa has this huge mass, it's just gonna be really one-sided, and this Magara is gonna trade really well with the Legion Dragoons. They're just so strong with the Griot standing, and yeah, it's just looking really good. And I think at this point he can just go ahead and commit actually with all of this, and it will be a complete wipe. So meanwhile, we see Ports finally going onto the water, and I think this was the right play. Never go, in my opinion, never go for the farms. Just try to get on water. Just chop wood and get on water. It's basically always better option. But it's a bit too little too late, and unfortunately he's gonna lose this fight because of it. And yeah, he's just getting really cornered here. Meanwhile, we see all of his infrastructure getting going down with these howitzers, and he just doesn't have any reinforcing he doesn't have any resources to actually make reinforcement units, and he's just losing all of his villagers. So that really shows you how you can actually still win even if Port gets that huge villager lead. So I think a bit of a misplay maybe by Port. I think he could have won this if we just pushed with halberdiers and the organ guns. I think it would have been in a really good spot, and I think he just committed a bit too hard here on the goons, and it just didn't really pay off. It didn't really counter any of Hausa's units, and just a really nice play here by Vindian, going for the Kanuri Guards. Really interesting unit. You don't really see this unit a lot, and also the Berber Camels, of course, really good units. We can actually go ahead and take a look at the villager graph, because it's gonna be really interesting. So Vindian actually outgathering here, and I guess that's probably just because of the fact that the poor player here is on mills. But you can see 92 villagers, and Vindian is on 52, so he got a huge villager lead. But as you can see, it doesn't really matter because Vindian has the map control, and he can just take all the natural resources. It doesn't have to go on mills. So we're just getting a lot more value. And also, don't forget that TP line is also pretty huge, and also getting this full influence boom. He has basically, let's see, if he has four universities here, all with the max gather rate. So yeah, very nice play by Vindian. I really like his influence-focused gameplay. It's just always a joy to watch. But anyways, that was it for this casted game, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.